Good morning, class 11 students. Today, the chapter we are going to study is known as We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together, and it is written by Gordon Cook and Alan East. Gordon Cook, he was born on December 3rd, 1978, in Toronto, Canada. He is a two-time Canadian Olympic sailor. He sails for the Royal Canadian Yacht Club, and he also has a great interest in writing stories. Now let's talk about Alan East. He's a litigator, manager, and legal trainer. So, as the name suggests, we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. The title itself suggests the bravery, courage, and yes, if you are together, if you have all the support that you need, you can easily overcome any trouble, any problem. So the chapter, We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together, revolves around a part of the round the world voyage, which was undertaken by the narrator Gordon Cook and his family in a sailboat which they gave name Wave Walker, right? So in this story he describes all the adventure, thriller, problems, and the struggles they face during their journey across the sea, and also their close encounter, and he also writes about the narrow escape they had with death. Understand? So let's talk about the characters of the chapter. In this chapter we have a few more characters. If we compare the previous if we compare it with the previous chapter, we had less character in the last chapter. So let's get to know, let's know about them, right? Let's find more about them. We have narrator. His name is Gordon Cook. He is a 37-year-old businessman, and what he wants to do, he actually wants to replicate or duplicate the round the world journey which was made by long ago by Captain James Cook, and I think it's about 200 years earlier, right? So that is why Gordon Cook, he prepares himself beforehand. He checks all his, he tests his sea skills, sea skills that you need when you're going on a voyage. And then so that's all about the narrator Gordon Cook. And the second character we have Mary. She is Cook's wife. She's narrator's wife, and she is she's devoted to her husband, and she's also very supporting. And you will see that in the chapter you will also get to see the courage and the utmost support she offers to her husband, right? And yes, she is one of the one of the members on the deck. And then we have Larry Vigil, Larry, and the surname is Vigil, Vigil. He is an American who is he accompanies the narrator, because the narrator and Mary, they hired the two crew members, additional crew members, because Indian Ocean is considered to be the roughest ocean, so they actually needed two more hands, to support and the crew members. So they hired two crewmen, and one of them is Larry Vigil, and the next one is Herb Seiler. He's a Swiss who also joins them at Cape Town, to help them cross the southern Indian Ocean. And then they have a son and a daughter. Gordon Cook and Mary, they have two they have a son and a daughter. The son's name is Jonathan. He is 6 year old, and he also shows immense courage and optimism even at unfavorable times. And we have Suzanne. She is 7 year old daughter, and she also displays a lot of courage, support, and yes, pessimism. So that's all the characters we have in this chapter. So I think it's time for us to start the text, start reading the text. So before we proceed with the text, we have few difficult words here that we are supposed to go through, and so I will be highlighting it for you, so that you could actually keep the track of the chapter, and this will also help you understand. The first one is honing our seafaring skills. See, seafaring is an adjective. Seafaring means seafaring skills means the skills that you need when you're going on a voyage, right? When you're sailing a ship. And owning means when you sharpen something, when you improve something. So owning our seafaring skills means all the efforts made by the narrator and his wife in order to improve their seafaring skills. How do you improve your seafaring skills? You try to understand, you try to gain the knowledge of navigation, because it's actually very difficult to navigate right, in the ocean, and how to handle the boat and the equipment, and other miscellaneous things. And then we have ominous silence. Ominous silence means it refers to the silence which is just before a coming danger, right? The silence that you get to see before a great danger, it's called ominous silence. And then we have Mayday calls. See, Mayday calls, it is actually the internationally known emergency radio telephonic calls, because when you are in aircraft, ships, and you are stuck in a very unfavorable situation, and this is a kind of a distress call, you have to say 3 times Mayday, 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 right? So this is the Mayday call, and I believe the family must have used it when they face the difficulties during their journey. So we'll get to know about the difficulties and their struggle when we will go through it. Now then we have pinpricks in the vast ocean. Pinpricks means something which is very tiny. So pinprick in the vast ocean, it refers to tiny islands in the vast ocean, right? The family is looking for those tiny islands, and you will see why are they looking for the tiny island. And then tousled head means which is not arranged or disarranged here, right? So that's all the difficult words we have here in the beginning of the text. Now let's go through it. In July 1976, my wife Mary, son Jonathan 6, daughter Susan 7, I set sail from Plymouth, England. So they actually began their journey from England, right? And what they want to do, to duplicate the round the world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. So what they want to do, they actually want to duplicate the record of James Cook, which was made 200 years ago, right? And what was the record? Voyage, sea journey is called voyage, right? The round the world voyage. Understand? For the longest time, Mary and I, a 37-year-old businessman, I think we have already discussed when we read about Gordon Cook. So he's a 37-year-old businessman, had a dreamt of sailing in the wake of the famous explorer, and for the past 16 years we had spent all our leisure time means free time, owning our seafaring skills in British waters. So famous explorer means in the wake of famous explorer, because actually he wants to duplicate the round the voyage which was made 200 years ago by Captain James, and he also looking for something to do, right? I mean, he wants to pursue the same field. He also wants to, satiate or satisfy his desire, or his longing to duplicate the record, right? So they actually, and it's not like that he decide, he decides today that I will go on this voyage, around the world voyage, and the next day he leaves. No, he actually practiced for 16 years, before his journey. He and his wife, they practiced for 16 years, and they also use their leisure time in order to improve their seafaring skills, and were in British waters, right? Our boat, Wave Walker. So now this is about their boat. They named their boat Wave Walker, a 23 meter, how long it is? 23 meter, 30 ton, it's 30-ton wooden hulled beauty. Wooden hulled beauty means it is made of wood, right? Had been professionally built, and it is not, had been professionally built means it was designed by a professional. It means it is not an ordinary ship, because it is made by professionals. So understand, wooden hulled means boat made of wood, right? And we had spent fitting it out and testing it in the roughest weather we could find. And they did not only test themselves, they also test their ship, the Wave Walker. They actually tested it in the roughest weather, whether the ship was able to tackle the damage or not, right? So I mean, this is how they prepared themselves before this round the world voyage, right? The first leg of our planned 3-year 105,000 kilometer journey passed pleasantly as we sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town, right? So children, I will be showing you the world map in the next video so that you could actually understand. They actually started their journey from, they were in England, right? They set sail from England, and if you will look at the world map, right, on the top you will see England, right? And right below in the south you will see this Africa, Cape Town, right? So 105,000 kilometers journey was very, it was comfortable, it was easy. They did not come across any troubles or any problem or any difficulties, right? Therefore, before heading east, we took on 2 crewmen, American Larry and Swift's Herb. So they hired 2, I think we have already discussed about them. These are the 2 crew members they hired before taking on the world's roughest seas, which is called the Southern Indian Ocean. Understand? On our second day out of Cape Town, we began to encounter strong gales. So what happens? What is gales? Gales is extremely strong winds, right? So they reached Cape Town, and when they left the second day, they started encountering this. They came across strong wind. So, and strong wind means it's a warning sign. For the next few weeks, they blew continuously, and gales did not worry me, but the size of the wave was alarming. So, in the next few days, the wind did not stop, blowing, extremely strong, right? They were blowing extremely strong, but it did not scare the narrator. What scared the narrator was the size of the waves, because it was very alarming and threatening, right? Alarming means threatening, something that gives you warning or a threat. And they were up to 15 meters long, as high as our main mast. So what is the mast? See, children, this the Wave Walker, it is actually it's not a modern ship, right? So it has a mast. You see that it's a tall pole, right? right on the deck of the ship. It is called mast, where you actually see the storm jib and all, right? In the next video I will also be sharing the, or probably in the Zoom class I will be sharing the image of the ship, the wave walker, and the map, the world map, and so that you could actually find out and could easily understand that the point where they the point from where they started their journey, and to the point where they came across the trouble, right? So the mast is actually the pole, right? So how long? The waves were very gigantic. They were like 15 meters tall, as high as our main mast. Okay, so what happened next? Let's find out. December 25 found us 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. See children, it is December, and let me just let you take you back. They actually started their journey in July 1976, right? So what is the month now? The month is December now. They started in the month of July, and now it is December 25. December 25 means Christmas, right? So, and they are like 3,005 kilometers east of Cape Town, right? If you will look at the world map, you will see the Cape Town is right below. I'm in the south. Despite means in spite of. Atrocious means cruel, very unpleasant, right? Despite atrocious weather, we had a wonderful holiday complete with a Christmas tree. So obviously the weather, it was not favorable, but the family, they celebrated their Christmas. They had a wonderful holiday, and they also made a Christmas tree, right? And New Year's Day saw no improvements in the weather, but we reasoned that it had to change soon, and it did change for the worse. So on 25 December they celebrated Christmas, this in spite of the bad weather, and they hoped weather to improve. But yes, the weather did change. They hoped the weather would change, but the weather did change, but it did not change good. It turned very bad when New Year's Day. And at dawn on January 2, dawn means early morning, so the waves were gigantic. Gigantic means huge, very huge. So on 2nd January the waves were very huge. They were very gigantic. Earlier they were 15 meters tall, but now they are very huge. We were sailing with only one small storm jib. What is storm jib? It is actually a small sail used at the time of a storm, right? We use storm jib when we expect storm. This actually helped the ship control its movement, right? So at that time, on 2nd January, children, you have to remember the date, that what happened on the date on January 2nd, right? So remember, so on January 2nd the waves were gigantic. We were sailing with only a small storm jib, and we're still making 8 knots. What is 8 knots? Knots is actually nautical miles per hour. This is that's how we measure the distance in the ocean, right? As the ship rose to the top of the each waves, we could see the enormous sea rolling towards us. So children, if you have traveled, if you have been to a ship, I think you could actually understand that when when you expect lots of waves, right? The movement of ship is like it goes up and it goes down, and when the moment it goes up, you could actually see the vast ocean ahead of you. So that is what this this paragraph is trying to tell you. Endless means which will never end, and enormous means which is huge, again huge. Seas rolling towards, and the screaming of the wind and spray was painful to the ears, right? And yes, screaming of the winds, when the wind blows very strong, you could actually hear the voice, the this, it's kind of a very different and very sometimes it is very unpleasant, and it has a kind of a very squeaky, right? So it was very painful to the ears. So to slow the boat down, we dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring. What is mooring? Mooring is actually it is used for tying tying the boat to a fixed object, right? So they dropped the storm jib. Why did they drop the storm jib? Because storm jib is actually a small sail, which help the ship to sustain during heavy storm, right? So they dropped the storm jib and they tied all the ropes, right, in a loop across the stern. And now, what is stern? Stern is actually the back part of the ship. So that's how they used, right? Where we are, okay. We dropped the storm jib and lashed a heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern. So they actually used this rope, and where did they tie it? At the back part of the ship, where they had this loop, right? Then we double lashed everything. Double lashed everything means then they tied everything again, right? Because when the wave are very gigantic, when they are very huge, they have a tendency to to sweep everything over, right? So anything that is on the deck are likely to be swept away by the waves. So that is why it is necessary that everything has to be a double lashed. So they tied everything. What did they tie? They tied their this life raft drill. What is life raft drill? It is actually practicing how to climb into the lifeboat if the main boat sinks, right? So it is actually their boat that help when you lose the main ship. Attached lifelines, don't oilskins. What are oilskins? Oilskins are waterproof clothing that you need. And lifelines, what are lifelines? These are actually the rope fixed around the bodies of persons, right, to prevent them from drowning. Understand? So these are some very different, it's very different words that you need to know, right? Because it is very common with the sailor and all. So that is why you need to actually understand them. And then life jackets is very simple. Jackets without sleeves, which can be filled with air, and that it help person to stay afloat, right, in the ocean, in the sea. Okay, children, so that's all for today's session. So you have seen that how the family is preparing themselves to face these gigantic waves and the bad weather, and you have to remember what they are doing to safeguard, and also you have to remember how did they begin their journey, what did they do before their journey, and all that stuff you have to remember. So that's all for today's session. Have a nice day. Let's see you in the next class.